Could the US make voting obligatory like other countries? One version of this would be that when US citizens vote they'd get a code to include on their taxes to avoid a fine, a bit like health insurance coverage. And voting day would be a bank holiday with required pay from all employers. How do you think this would play out? I think it would be better and easier just to mail a ballot to every registered voter. No. Make voting easier. Start by making it a holiday federal, state and local. Then add more polling stations and remove unnecessary restrictions, etc. Most people already can get paid leave to go vote. 22 states have paid voting leave, including California, New York, Texas, Ohio and Georgia. It's usually a couple hours of half day, not a whole day. No. It's seriously jumping the gun when we haven't even attempted to address why there is apathy currently. Make voting easier and then go from there. Mail-in voting. In today's economy, especially for middle class and lower, we see more super commuters 1.5 hours commute and those working in jobs that aren't friendly to take time off work to vote. Most non-voters are voting for the status quo. What we really need to address are those that want to vote but physically cannot because of factors outside of their control. Not mandatory. But I like the idea of people getting a code to get a tax rebate thing. It would encourage people to vote. Mitch McConnell has explicitly said that if it's easier to vote, Democrats will always win, and so it will never happen that voting will be obligatory. Wouldn't play out well at all. The thing about rights is that the inverse of that right is generally understood to be valid as well. I.e., a right to vote implies a right not to vote. In any case, it's better that people who generally don't pay attention to politics don't get involved in the process, because chances are they'll be grossly uninformed and will just do it because they're forced. I'd like to see as many people voting as possible, but not like this. Fining people for not voting? Absolutely not. What a ridiculous notion. It seems undemocratic to force a vote by risk of governmental punishment. Are you kidding? We couldn't ever get everyone to wear masks and get vaxxed during a pandemic. Should never happen. Voting is a right and a responsibility. It should never be forced and it should never be obstructed. There is no way the GOP would allow this to happen. They're trying desperately to limit who can vote already. They know their days are numbered. No. The duopoly turns off many. Not voting is a vote. The disdain for what's offered. Evil and lesser evil. Hot take. Not voting is a form of voting. It's saying I don't like any of these options and I refuse to pick one. That's a perfectly valid and legitimate stance. My only thing is, if you don't vote you shouldn't complain about who wins. In 2016 I heard a lot of OMG I can't believe Trump won. I mean I didn't vote but I was certainly hoping Hillary would beat Trump. If you choose not to vote then you basically are apathetic about who wins and shouldn't complain. Either way. Do you want Bodie McBoatface to be the next president? Hell no. This would be the absolute worst. We do not want people who don't want to vote voting. Most definitely, positively no. Nope. Your right to vote includes the right to protest the options given by not participating. No. There are many religious, ideological, philosophical reasons why people choose to abstain from voting. And besides, there's no evidence that compulsory voting even has any benefits at all. Making Election Day a national holiday is a good idea, but there are still tons of people that have to work on holidays, so that doesn't really change anything. It would really only matter to government employees. Universal vote by mail and automatic voter registration are the ways to go. Emo. The GOP would never allow this to happen. If everyone that could vote actually voted, The GOP would never win. They cannot get elected because they have no policies, no platform except to appease the 18 of evangelical churches. It's a great plan. Like the Australians, the Republicans will kill it immediately. The biggest problem with voter apathy is that it sends a message to politicians that people aren't paying attention and that they have a free hand to do as they please rather than as they should. An increase in turnout through coercion isn't going to persuade corrupt-minded politicians that the citizens care. Maybe not mandatory, but a ticket for a free Happy Meal would insensitivize tons of new voters. Say $6 per voter, it would cost maybe $1 billion. Take it out of fossil fuel subsidies and you kill two birds with one rock. Hard pass. 1. Not voting is a form of political expression protected under the First Amendment. 2. Anticipating the rejoinder, but you can just vote blank. That's still voting. B. It's a giant waste of time. 3. It encourages low information voters to just pull whatever level looks shiniest at that given moment. Low information voters should stay home. More than 72 million households pay no federal income taxes. So linking it to voting is a horrible idea. I think mandatory voting is equally horrible. I don't want my vote cancelled out by some yahoo who doesn't care who wins an election. Nope. We already have enough uninformed idiots voting voluntarily. Imagine how little political understanding people who were forced to vote would hold. Definitely not mandatory, cause that's some fascist shit, but make it as easy as possible a voting holiday or do it on the weekend. Mail-in ballots are online once that can be secure, but don't pretend like paper ballots are perfect. See Florida in 2000. The problem is one of our major parties relies on low voter turnout and suppression to maintain whatever power they have, so that shit needs to get sorted first. No. That is a human rights violation. You want to fine people for not voting? So what happens when they don't pay the fine? You're going to arrest them? And what happens when they attempt to defend themselves from this? Do you really want people ending up in a cell because they didn't like any of the candidates? Ops unaware the tens of millions that live on non-taxable income, who do not file for taxes as none do. To motivate people into voting, invade the citizen's home with overwhelming force, then begin removing fingers. Absolutely not. When someone votes, they need to do it willingly. It's bad enough we have some voters who are not educated about what they are voting on and vote party lines. Would require a constitutional amendment. Not voting is a First Amendment right. But I do like the idea of sending every registered voter a ballot. Do people genuinely think their vote matters in any significant or meaningful manner? That's the equivalent of believing in the Easter Bunny. Or believing anything Fox CNN says. At all. Yes, as long as voting for everyone can be done from home computer or absentee ballot. Voting should be done online, and the American people should be able to vote for every bill. It could work if we wanted it to. Would be less fraudulent than letting the so-called representatives make our decisions. No. This will probably get down-voted to oblivion, but low-information voters shouldn't be voting even with the system we currently have. In reality, there should be some ultra-basic system to prove you actually understand who you're voting for before you can vote. National Voting Holiday. Polls open 24 hours. From midnight to midnight. Social Security number and photo ID needed to vote.